I can confidently say one thing. When a coin has its own stablecoin within its ecosystem, the synergy and competitive advantage that come from that are immense. And Ripple has that. In fact, Ripple has very good partnerships with global institutions that we all know by name. So it's a coin that has many reasons to go up. But what have been the recent price trends for Ripple? And why did it suddenly surge? Ripple is a coin of love-hate. This is because it's a coin that Koreans really like. Among my friends, almost a third of their assets are invested in Ripple. The people around me are all people who do crypto. So considering that, if 1/3 of them hold Ripple, it means there are a lot of Ripple holders among general users. Ripple is so popular in Korea that whether the price rises or falls here can affect the global price of Ripple. With the confirmation of Trump's election, the Ripple price, which had been moving horizontally, suddenly surged 4 or 5 times. There's a reason for this. Ripple was in a very difficult lawsuit with the US government, and when Trump was elected, there was an expectation that the lawsuit might end, which caused the price to rise. The lawsuit was recently concluded. So we should see the surge that was fueled by the lawsuit as now being over, and there needs to be additional good news. Honestly, from this point on, it's a bit of a thorny path. This is because Ripple is doing a lot of things. One thing I can say with confidence is that if a coin has its own stablecoin within its ecosystem, the synergy and competitive advantage are enormous. Ripple has this. It has a coin called RLUSD, which is a stablecoin. Ripple also has excellent partnerships with globally renowned institutions. So it's a coin with many reasons to go up. But there's one reason it hasn't been able to. That's because Ripple Labs controls the circulating supply of Ripple. For example, even recently, when Ripple Labs' legal issues were mostly resolved, not just with Trump's election, but a more recent resolution in July and August, the price obviously went up. However, during this period, one of the founders of Ripple Labs sold several $100 million worth of coins, which became an issue. So, these kinds of things? The Korean investors who are holding Ripple have waited for a very long time, and they are very knowledgeable about the coin because they've been in it for so long. So, I also hope Ripple rises, but for these reasons. If the price seems like it's going to rise, the company just releases a huge amount of supply, and the founder sells his own coins, so unless there is an incredible amount of buying pressure, the price can't go up. Surprisingly, I think its performance is poor. At first, when it suddenly surged 4 or 5 times, I thought, it was a regulatory issue that was holding it back. I figured with ETFs and other things getting resolved, Ripple would have a lot of room to grow. But now, 8 months into the Trump administration, those factors seem weaker than expected. There's a clear reason for this. Whenever it's about to rise, they dump the supply, so it can't go up. That's the reason. Why is institutional money flowing into Ripple recently?
To say institutional money is flowing in is a bit of a misstatement. Right now, strictly speaking, institutional money is flowing only into Bitcoin and Ethereum. This is because ETFs, an effective model to capture institutional funds, are working for them. This type of exchange-traded fund product is running for Bitcoin and Ethereum, and also for Solana to a lesser extent, though the Solana ETF is a bit of a Frankenstein product. So, institutional funds are all focused on these. Ripple does have many partnerships. Key companies that frequently appear as partners are things like Japan's SBI. Ripple's ETF approval is also being highly anticipated, so we need to watch. When the Ethereum ETF was first approved, people didn't immediately buy a lot. It was only after a certain level of demand was confirmed in the market, and it was clear that the Ethereum price would not fall any further, which happened in April of this year, that it started to rise. So we need to watch Ripple as well. Some people say that if the Ripple ETF is approved, it will be an instant success, but that's a bit premature. It first needs to be approved, and after that, we need to see how the money flows in. Ultimately, institutional investors also have to solve this problem. No matter how much money flows in from institutional investors, if Ripple Labs keeps dumping supply, it won't matter. Nevertheless, when there are big issues, the price still goes up, which I find quite amazing. You said Ripple is lagging despite the lawsuit ending. Will this affect its growth potential? That's very critical. I'm telling you the honest truth. There's no other coin like Ripple. One of Ripple's strengths is that its founders don't just dump coins, they're also good at lobbying. They're trying to get close to Trump and so on. But honestly, if I were a Ripple holder, I'd probably be angry. Another important point is that I used to use Ripple a lot, even back in 2017. I used it mostly to transfer money from one exchange to another, or from a Korean exchange to an overseas one. I almost always used Ripple because that was its original purpose, a project created to replace bank wire transfers. However, over time, while Ripple was very fast and convenient back then, many other cryptocurrencies that are better for that purpose have emerged. So, the utility of the XRP token itself has become quite ambiguous. This could be an even bigger problem than the founders dumping their coins. Ultimately, it seems Ripple is trying to solve this issue through partnerships. We don't know the future, but that's the current trend. So Ripple is facing more challenges than it did in the past. Will changes in stablecoin policy affect the price of Ripple? Oh, absolutely. Of course. The Ethereum price started to rise in April, but there was a significant surge for about 20 days, from late June to around July 15th to 18th. What kind of coins rose during that time? All the coins related to stablecoins went up. Ripple was among the coins that rose during this period. Because it has a stablecoin called RLUSD, it's also classified as a stablecoin-related coin. So, the Ripple ecosystem is deeply connected to what happens with stablecoins. What is the impact of changes in international payment standards on the crypto market? The impact on the crypto market is actually not that significant. As I mentioned earlier, while Ripple was once used for bank wire transfers, what's used the most now are stablecoins. Depending on which blockchain the stablecoin is sent on, it can be much faster and have lower fees than Ripple. So, people no longer use Ripple for that purpose, and there are many coins that have adopted the ISO 20022 standard, but they received attention a few years ago, before stablecoins became so popular. Now, if you set your mind to it, stablecoins can handle it all, so the position of those coins is actually at risk. This is because their prices already rose due to the ISO 2022 issue. If a coin's price hasn't risen because of this issue, it won't fall because of it. But if it rose because of this, and then ultimately doesn't get adopted or used, the price will drop again. So, in the crypto world, this issue is not considered that important. The general sentiment is that stablecoins reign supreme. What is the status of Ripple's ETF approval? And how will it affect its future price and growth?
It's unlikely to surpass the price of Ethereum. There's a logical reason for this. I'm not just saying it. First, Ethereum's blockchain is far superior in its ability to program assets and money through smart contracts. Its biggest advantage is that it has never stopped working for 10 years. This is a huge benefit for institutions choosing Ethereum. Institutions will only use something they can trust. So you need to consider where XRP can be used now or where it will be used in the future. Price often has little to do with this. For example, older coins with large market caps, like ADA, have similar usability to Ethereum, but no one uses them. No one is issuing things or running RWAS on them. Why? Because ADA is seen as a slow follower of Ethereum. If Ethereum does something, ADA tends to follow, which means people don't use it for serious projects. But does that mean its price will go down? No, it won't, because it has an incredibly strong community.
Ripple is the same. It won't go down easily because it has a very strong community. But if you're looking at it as a long-term investment, you have to ask yourself if these people will stick with Ripple forever. People can and will move on when something more attractive appears. To summarize Ripple, it's an old coin with many fans, and its community is very strong. Its price can also be seen as undervalued. These three are its strengths. The problems are, first, the Ripple Labs Foundation has too much influence over the circulating supply, so the supply and demand credibility is low. There's skepticism that if the price goes up, they'll just release more coins into the market. Second, the utility of the XRP token itself has faded. While it was used for remittances in the past, its use is now ambiguous. Nevertheless, it has issued a stablecoin called RLUSD and is making efforts to get involved in partnerships and lobbying everywhere. So, we need to wait and see how things unfold.
What is the possibility and timeline for Ripple to reach $10? I think it's possible. The possibility is there. Honestly, I didn't expect Ripple to reach $3.3. It stayed at the same price for so long that I wondered when it would ever go up and what kind of good news it would need to do so. But as I said, it went up 4 or 5 times after Trump's election last year. The possibility of reaching $10 is open to every coin. But for it to reach $10, it would have to surpass Ethereum's market cap, which would mean Ripple would need to offer more utility than Ethereum, and that's something to think about.
The crypto market has already moved beyond just a game of money in, money out based on price. It's about a coin's clear utility. The coins with clear utility are the ones that are getting attention and being chosen. Some people say, "What's $10? I'll sell at $30. I've seen a lot of people like that. Is there a possibility of reaching $30? Yes, there is. But you have to consider how difficult that journey would be. Reaching $10 is possible if something very big happens, like a major network or a country adopting Ripple as its exclusive financial network, or the US government starting to accumulate Ripple as a reserve asset on par with Bitcoin, or if a country like El Salvador comes out and declares, "We've decided to collect Ripple instead of Bitcoin." It's possible in those scenarios, but are they likely? Not really. Are there any sell signals for Ripple that are different from Bitcoin's? Honestly, Ripple doesn't really need a sell signal. Its tanking power, its ability to hold up, is surprisingly strong. It rarely goes down easily. Bitcoin, with its largest market cap, should be the most resilient, but that's not the case. Nowadays, Bitcoin moves very sensitively. Ripple, on the other hand, is surprisingly more sluggish in its price movements, despite being an altcoin. A message for your subscribers? To the Shinsaimdang subscribers, I've talked about various things today. Please don't hate on me if this goes against your investment style. I've shared what I know. I'm always watching the market, and I'll continue to try my best to deliver information that can be helpful to you. Thank you.